And do you find it easy to do so? Story 1. I never used to until recently. I was in a situation in a relationship where I needed help from them, so I had to be. As soon as I became open with them, they became open with me. It actually resulted in the friendships growing beyond where I ever thought they would. Story 2. Like once to my best friend of many years before we went off to college. Mostly my friends and I just, do something, then someone mumbles something like, "I'm feeling kind of down since Linda left." Then someone else gives him a pat on the back and mumbles something about knowing it can be rough. Then we all mumble, "Yup," and go about what we were doing. Story 3. Interesting that there are so many nevers here. I have male friends that are like brothers, and I open up to them about things that bother me all the time, whether it be political worldviews or personal. But of course, these have to be good friends that I know and have proven I can trust with the information. Story 4. Not much anymore. Lately, I am finding out that no one in my life cares as much as I do. They like me because I listen and try to help, but when I need the same, it becomes like a challenge for them to squeeze in things about their own struggles. Everyone is selfish, so it is easier to be detached. Story 5. I no longer open up about myself to my male friends. After one of them told the rest of my coworkers what we talked about during a stop at a bar after work, I didn't find out he'd been talking behind my back until the third time I drank with him. It was unpleasant things about other coworkers and myself. As for other things that bother me, like how someone's been acting lately, I'm not afraid to tell any of them that they're being foolish or anything along those lines. Story 6. Like once a week, my friend group is pretty open in general, so each one of us talks about anything and everything that is bothering us, big or small, including all of our insecurities and weaknesses. We have these deep talks about once a week just to discuss what we're struggling with, whether it's school, family, money, or whatever. Story 7. When I need to. My close guy-friend relationships are as important as my relationship with my wife. There are things I can talk to them about that I won't discuss with my wife. I never abuse it because nobody likes negative people who just use you as a dumping ground. But when I need to, I need to. On the other side of the coin, I'm there for them as well. Story 8. Very often, I've had the same four buddies since about 8th grade, and I talk to them about anything and everything. It's weird seeing so many responses saying never. If you can't talk about real things with your friends, then what are you doing? Story 9. I don't personally bring up my life troubles anymore due to the lack of care I see from my male friends, despite my being very attentive and sympathetic when they speak about their issues. It is frustrating knowing you're the only one that listens and sympathizes. Story 10. Looking at this thread, I just wanted to remind everyone that in 2016, 70% of suicides were male, and this is why, because we don't know how to express ourselves, and when you bottle up issues, it leads to depression. Story 11. I have a couple of good friends from university, and we meet up every so often. Now that we're in our mid-30s, we are much more comfortable talking about the not-so-good things in life. 10 years ago, we would never have had those conversations. Story 12. Just once, when I found out my ex was treating me poorly, I called my best friend of 20 years to ask him what I should do, since he is more experienced. I ended up crying to him on the phone. He just listened and told me things he liked about me. He is a good friend. Story 13. I have several close friends, both male and female. I have open and very frank talks about myself, my dreams, and so on with all of them. I would never open up or discuss personal, emotional, sexual, or financial topics with random strangers. I have an inner circle of 8 people that I respect and who have shown they are trustworthy and with me no matter what. Story 14. Getting better at it. Had a tumultuous year personally, and they had to hear about it. Sometimes you find that others want to open up too, but it's like they're waiting for the other's permission to do so. I went into therapy this year, and 2 of my other friends ended up doing it as well. I think we're all getting better at discussing our issues and how beneficial it is to do so. Story 15. Never sober. I've always been kind of introverted. My dad never spoke to anyone about his issues or feelings. He just got on with it. When I've been drinking, I tend to open up a bit, then regret it in the morning. Story 16. A couple of years ago, I was struggling a lot with my sexuality and was borderline depressed. Despite being functional and top-notch in everything, I was always sad and was crying to bed every single night. Things got a bit worse later on, and that's when I decided I needed to talk to someone. The first person I came out to was my straight best friend, who truly helped me accept myself and be comfortable with who I am. It was the first time we had an emotional conversation together. That was the start. We're now very comfortable with each other and share our feelings and thoughts whenever the situation calls for it. Story 17. Anytime something is bothering me, I've always been a small, close group of friends kind of guy. By close, I mean they might as well be my brothers. If they're bothered by something or I am, it's not hard to open up. I truly care about them doing well in life and being happy. So I'll be there if they need me to be a sounding board, offer solutions, or just listen. They do the same for me. Deep, meaningful conversations, for lack of a better term, have always been a core part of what I'm looking for from any friendship, whether it's about life, romance, job, or the nature of the universe. Story 18. Never with my male friends, but I had a few female friends over the years to talk to. Got stabbed in the back every time, as they always rant private stuff to their friends. Story 19. I tried Justin Baldoni's experiment on my group of friends, and it helped me realize they are toxic. I highly recommend his TED Talk. Story 20. I have one friend who I am really open with, and I really appreciate him. Girls are great to talk to about lots of stuff, but there are some things they will not understand. Story 21. I share pretty much everything with my friends. They've been my friends forever, and I trust them with my life. I hold on to my real friends. They appreciate me and my quirks. And since I share, they feel they can do the same with me. It's a nice circle. Story 22. I have a buddy of mine who has been my friend for at least 20 years. I can tell him anything. When I was going through a rough patch and was trying to get back on my medication, he was there. Story 23. Pretty regularly, my best friend and I both became fathers in 2017 and 2018, and we talk about once a week. It's a big change in pace and lifestyle, and the emotional shift is intense. So we talk to each other. Sometimes we just listen, and other times we offer advice. Sometimes we just cry, which is amazing. Hearing a guy who can bench 400 pounds blubbering makes me feel better. Knowing my manliest friend is as emotional as I am. It was difficult at first, but it's important to have friends you can be truly open with. I needed to talk to someone about my fears and how sometimes I just wanted to run away and die from the pressure of knowing my family is completely reliant on my employment and support, and always will be, and I can't ever take a break. It's actually helped knowing we are not alone in our fears and feelings of loneliness. Story 24. Rarely or never. As far as they know, I'm well-adjusted, happy, and extremely level-headed. So it was a shock to them, the ones that know, when I was seeing a psychologist at the start of 2018 due to depression. I don't like bothering people with my problems because generally I am not even sure what my problems are, but I had them. However, I am that friend with whom my friends feel comfortable talking about their problems. Story 25. Never until recently, and I'm not sure why. It's likely because I'm going through a lot of things. Once I mentioned to my friend that I don't like to complain while talking about how my family is in a lot of debt and we have no food in the house. He agreed that I don't like to complain. It was a nice moment because it assured me that I was being reasonable talking to him about my problems at the time. They gave me some money for things like going to the high school dance and after party. They're really good friends. Story 26. With my best friend, all the damn time. And he does the same with me. It is awesome. It was not easy at first, but once we started, it became so easy. It helped that we both went through our quarter-life crisis at the same time. Story 27. I have one friend who I can open up to about anything. We have seen each other through some really hard times, and we are very understanding and helpful to each other. I will open up to him anytime I think his perspective will help. Story 28. Anytime my close friends and I hang out in real life, I'm pretty close with about 3 people, but we're not too good at keeping in contact until we go to a bar together, play some online or board games, or just meet up for food. Story 29. I have 2 small, tight-knit groups of friends. The first group is really good about emotional support, the other not so much. I feel like with the first group, we can get rid of our baggage and talk about it. With the second group, emotional support usually only comes when it's an emergency. Story 30, all the time. I have a really solid core group of friends, and I do not hesitate to share anything I am thinking with them, whether it is thoughts, feelings, ideas, or whatever. It makes it easier that I am in college and I live with all these guys. Story 31. I have a very tight group of friends that I served with, and we stay in constant contact with each other. We talk about everything from shooting skeet to relationship problems. The best bromance. Story 32. I must be weird then. My close friends know more than my family. They have seen the scars from when I used to cut. They have seen me break down crying. They have helped me through my hardest times. Keeping everything to yourself does not do any good for you. It is hard as anything to be that vulnerable, but it is worse trying to do it all on your own. Story 33. There was one friend who I would completely open up to, but he moved to Alaska now. I have very few friends now, but the few that I do talk to, I never open up to. If I do, it's in the form of a joke. Story 34. I do this quite often. I have a few close male friends whom I can trust. In return, I try my best to be helpful, or at least listen whenever they open up to me. Story 35. Actually, very often I consider myself very fortunate to be a part of such a stand-up group of guys. We all have problems and all trust each other to be able to listen, all trying to be there for one another. I used to not, and now that I know what it's like to have confidants, I don't think I could go without them. Story 36. I do a lot for my close friends, but for some of them, it took a long time to open up to them. For some reason, it is really hard to open up to most of the men in my life, especially older men. There has to be some give and take for men to open up and trust each other with things that are bothering or upsetting us. We have to open up our minds and hearts together. When we do, I think it's really powerful and can bring about a lot of healing. Story 37. Whenever I'm feeling down, I usually talk to my childhood friend. He's the only one I'll really open up to. It's easier when someone has known you all your life. Story 38. Actually depends on the content. I would talk about anything in general and how it bothers me. But when something is personal, it's personal, like family trouble. I don't really talk about it to anyone. Story 39. I started doing it a few years ago, and it has definitely made life easier. Now I can also talk to all my friends about my feelings, and for them, it takes a lot of stress away not having to worry about whether they think you're not manly enough. I think the best way to start is to slowly talk more and more about your personal stuff. Story 40. I have just one friend who I open up to regularly. He is my best friend, and we always try to be open with each other. We've talked about deep and dark suicidal thoughts, as well as struggles in relationships and with caring about ourselves, and even alcohol or drug abuse that we've struggled with. We've both admitted to the other at one point that if one of us had failed to take care of himself and committed suicide, the other would have followed suit. We're both doing a lot better now, but a lot of that is attributed to the fact that we're open and talk to each other about these things. Granted, no one else knows. Even our other friends can't seem to take it seriously enough to have these conversations with. It's just been me and him. Story 41. I complain constantly, sarcastically. In seriousness, though, it really depends on what is going on. I got divorced and opened up to about 5 friends and my family. Not a lot of deep soul-bearing stuff. I went to a therapist instead for that. But enough to get it off my chest and let them know what's going on. From time to time, I'll open up about family or relationship issues to a friend or two. Again, a walk or a beer helps me get things off my chest and move on. If someone does something that hurts my feelings, it really depends on the relationship and seriousness of it, but I usually decide it's not too big a deal. Minor annoyances, like there being no open squat racks, really depend on the person and the mood, but I usually keep that stuff to myself unless it's in a joking manner or apologizing for being late because of traffic, as I don't enjoy people complaining about things a lot. I think it's totally reasonable to lean on your friends when you need to. That's part of why you are there for each other. Story 42. I think that's the easy part, but friends' reaction is what I need for sure. If they start making fun of me or things like that because of what I shared with them, that is a sign that I need to be away from them. It's an easy way to be sure people are good, or at least they are not jerks. Often you will find jerks though. Story 43. Reading through these comments is kind of heart-wrenching. I'm seeing a lot of never and rarely. I did some research for a project on male mental health, and all existing research showed that men don't really talk to people about issues because they tend to externalize, meaning they blame external factors for how they're feeling. This also means that, unlike women, they won't process something to the point of realizing they need help and won't ask for help or even reach out to friends. I honestly feel it's important for men to have both male and female friends because the nature of the friend group becomes more open. My group of friends is about half male and half female, and we're all very open with each other.